Hello and welcome back to another episode of Random Topics Discussed. I am Bekah Halat, and today we are going to talk about Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln is obviously well known for being the 16th President of the United States, for preserving the Union, and for ending slavery. But did you know that Honest Abe was a poet? Yes, he was a poet, and I bet you did not know it. Today, we are going to take a look at a few of Lincoln's poems and speeches and see why he should be considered as one of America's greatest and most prolific writers. But who better to ask than the man himself? Please welcome our special guest, the one and only Abraham Lincoln! Hello, Mr. President. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. But if you asked me 87 years ago, maybe not so much.
So, Abe, although you have been the object and inspiration of many poems, many people do not know that your truest desire was to pursue a life of intellectualism and that you also spent most of your free time reading and writing poetry. Could you tell me about your favorite poet or poetry?
Why, yes. My favorite author is William Shakespeare. I actually read Macbeth over and over again. In fact, Shakespeare's literary work has greatly influenced my poetry and speeches.
That's great! Speaking of your poetry and speeches, many of your poems consist of themes with mortality and deep or dark emotions. For instance, in your poem, The Suicide Soliloquy, you say, "Hell! What is hell to one like me, who pleasure's never known? By friends consigned to misery, by hope deserted too?" What was the inner feelings that you had at the time you wrote this piece?
Well, throughout my entire life, I suffered from depression. But I found relief in the Lord's words, and I also threw myself into my work and my family. I didn't let it stop me from achieving greatness.
You certainly are a man who has achieved much greatness. Out of all the American presidents that have ever lived, you have by far been the most poetic. As a poetry lover myself, I am so pleased that you love poetry and literature as well. Honestly, you're kind of my hero. Your literary works have continually expressed your understanding of the emotions and rhythm of literature, and the cadences used in several of your most prominent speeches are just a testament to the experience that you had with writing poetry. I know that you love Shakespeare and poetry, but why did you go through the extra effort to writing in such a poetic manner in your speeches, and why did you work so diligently on all of your literary works?
Aristotle once said, "Poetry is finer and more philosophical than history, for poetry expresses the universal and history only the particular." Writing poetry allows me to creatively express and capture my feelings and emotions into words. I view poetry as a type of art form, and when reading poetry, I enjoy being able to connect with the words and imagine the emotions or thoughts in which the writers are attempting to convey. I wanted to do the same thing in my literary works and speeches, and I wrote my speeches in a poetic manner because I wanted to ensure that my speech flow was easy to remember, thus ensuring that my audiences would never forget the meaningful messages.
Well, it looks like we're almost out of time, but I wanted to thank you for coming in today and add that without a doubt, your views and ideas will continue to live on through your literature. You are a successful leader and made a large impact on the American people, and unfortunately, your writing style has been underappreciated because it lies in the shadow of some of your other more famous achievements like ending slavery and preserving the Union. But in my book, you should not only be acknowledged for being a great leader and one of the best figures in America, but also for being a great speaker and one of America's greatest and most prolific writers. Thank you so much for all that you have done for our country, Mr. President, and thank you for coming into my show.
It has been a great pleasure. Thank you for having me on your show.
And with that, folks, Mr. Lincoln is going to conclude our show with a special performance. Let's give it up for Abe Lincoln! Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just wait and see. I'll tell you how I became the king of DC. In rural Kentucky, born and raised on the homestead was where I spent most of my days. Chilling out, reading and writing all cool, and learning how to write without any school. When I ran for Senate, I addressed the House divided, making Lincoln known in my neighborhood. I lost not by much, and my mom got scared. She said, maybe you should run for the office of president. I debated and I waited with them day after day, until I got the job and I sent on my way. But the South seceded and the Civil War begun. I kept pressing on and said, this isn't much fun. Why? War? Yo, this is bad. Gettysburg Address made you question that. Is this what the people of America living like? They might be alright. The war finally ended and I stood tall. Is this the type of place where the Union fails? I don't think so, not while you got me. I hope you know why I'm the king of DC. Well, I issued the Emancipation Proclamation. The slaves were set free, we're closer to one nation. I ain't trying to make everyone mad. I just got here, so I ran for re-election. Once again, I appeared. I campaigned everywhere and I had no fear. The president, once again, I was here. If anything, I could say this job was rare, but I thought, nah, forget it, yo, I'm the king of DC. I pulled up to the White House about 7 or 8, and I yelled to the carriage, yo home, smell you later. Looked at my kingdom, I was finally here to sit on my throne, 'cause I'm the king of DC. King of DC. Thanks again for watching Random Topics Discussed. Abraham Lincoln really was a poet, and now you know it. We will see you next time where we discuss the ideal length of grass in your front yard.